know that fertility rates are just collapsing. Countries like the USA and the UK are seeing the lowest childbirth numbers in their histories. It's not just a stat, it's millions of people who always imagined they'd have a partner and family one day, now quietly aging out to that possibility.
Yo, what is going on, guys? Got a video for you here today from a channel called Moon titled The Incelification of Gen Z. Let's jump into it.
Answer this one question. When was the last time you met someone naturally? No dating apps, not online, but a genuine interaction in the real world. I'm guessing for most of you it was quite a while ago, but if you're in Generation Z, it possibly has never even happened. And that's not an accident. Most people we see these days are cashiers, co-workers, people rushing around, delivery drivers. People we pass by, not people we get to know. Interactions are often just transactions. Before dating apps turned relationships into a marketplace, the stage was already set years ago. Just think.
I love how people say this, by the way. Dating apps have obviously made things so much worse, but dating and mate selection has always been a marketplace. It's always been a transaction. If you're a dude and you're more attractive, or you have more money, or you're taller, women are going to view you more favorably. Relationships have pretty much always been this way, especially for men. You're always going to be paying with something.
Think about an average day. You work from home alone, your groceries get delivered, you tap your phone to pay, no words exchanged. Self-checkout at the shops, takeaway dropped to your door by someone who doesn't make eye contact, or maybe doesn't even speak the same language as you. It's so easy to go days without meaningful human interaction. Most interactions you do have are transactional, unless you're one of the lucky few who finds a club, society, or just something to connect with people. And even then, it's probably shoved into a small corner of your routine. We live in a touchless society, and like anything, if you don't use it, you lose it. Intimacy, sex, and love are just no different. And unlimited access to adult content really capitalized on this moment. You just click, consume, and wrap things up, remove your sexual desire, and move on with your day. Super easy and truly the simplest exchange for pleasure imaginable, really. But it's also shallow, takes away your drive, it's temporary satisfaction with diminishing returns. And like any addiction, you merely fill the gaps without addressing the root causes. And the brain has adapted to all of this. Dating apps started with a promise to breach a gap that most of their founders and investors had started. I mean, get this one of the Tinder CEOs left in 2022 and immediately launched Mino, an AI chatbot to fight loneliness. There's now a thriving loneliness economy that Silicon Valley talks about all the time.
I don't know if you guys have seen, but there are plenty of people on the internet and just in the world in general who will try and roast men for being like, wow, I can't believe these dudes are turning to like AI girlfriends. I can't believe men aren't participating and trying to make the dating game continue to work. And I understand these things are terrible for human beings. You've got corn and things like that. Obviously not good for men. But the really sad part about it is, for a lot of guys, what's the alternative? Are you going to go out and date one of these modern day women? Most of the modern day women are completely undateable men. They have terrible attitudes, incredibly entitled. They'll oftentimes try and rob you if you live in like a common law area, stuff like that. Like the payoff for men for dating is so low, it's not even funny. Like dudes, let's put this in perspective, okay? Men are quite literally traveling out of Western countries to find women who are more feminine. That is how bad things are. So obviously all this crap about corn and stuff like that is terrible. Very, very bad stuff for men. But, I notice all of the blame is just constantly put on dudes. And the blame is always like, hey, why don't you go and, do your manly duty of interacting with a modern day woman? And to that, I say, no, thank you. You know what I mean, guys? Like a lot of people, myself included, I don't want to go out of my way to talk to a woman. When I'm at the gym, I'm not trying to make friends with women. I'm not trying to talk to people. I'm there for a reason, and then I will leave. And that's the way things are these days, guys. Like you open a door for a modern day woman and she'll scowl at you a lot of the time. Some sad crap here.
Even venture capital companies that focus exclusively on this. We made a video about the entire loneliness economy before, as it's just the perfect vector for exploitation. Sell people the solution to the problem you helped create. It's the oldest trick in the book, but the impacts are totally new to us. And that's why they're doing so much damage. We're even inventing new language to deal with this. Remember that cringily soulless word "me cute" that people started using years ago? It popped up on social media as a way to describe meeting someone that you exchanged numbers with for a date. date. For example, at a coffee shop or a bookshop when looking for the same book. Just think about the fact that we actually developed a new word for the crazy phenomenon of just meeting someone organically. It should have set off alarm bells, right?
Am I the only one who's never heard of this word, by the way? Like, I understand what this guy is trying to say, but I have never heard this phrase in my life. Maybe that's just me.
It was an early sign that society was changing in a way that made meeting people in real life the exception and not the rule. It's no coincidence that the word started being used a lot around 2015, the same time dating apps blew up. And in the last decade, dating declined to the point where the majority of Generation Z today just don't know or really have any way to meet people.
50% of men aged 18 to 24 have never approached a woman in person in their life, and like even higher percentage, 18 to 30, haven't approached a woman in the last year.
In recent years, third space
I love conversations like this, man, because they always like dance around the issue. Typically, anyway. I haven't seen this full interview in particular, but they always dance around the issue. They're like, you know, all these dudes are just not approaching women, and what happened? And they kind of just dance around it. But again, the truth of the matter is it's simply not worth it for men. Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to go approach a woman and risk a court case if she doesn't like me? And people think this is some kind of a joke, okay? They're like, oh, it's not that serious. For men, it is actually very serious, man. Like, let's just say, you know, you frequent a coffee shop. Like, you love this coffee shop, so you go there every day or whatever to get your coffee the way you like it. And you talk to a woman in that location who ends up, you know, thinking you're creepy or whatever. There are situations where you can't go back there again, because now everyone in that social environment is going to think you're a creep. So you can't go back there for the coffee because you're going to be that creepy guy, because maybe the woman said to some other, you know, person there that you're a creep. And this stuff happens all the time, man. All the time. And that's a less serious example, by the way. That's not even like a court case example where a woman claims you touched her or, you know, you came onto her too aggressively. Like, the amount of damage that can be done to men's careers and social lives off of an approach to a modern woman. Because let's be real, a lot of these women are very mean men. You know, they don't really let you down lightly if they don't like you. If they don't find you attractive, there are a lot of women out there who will use you as sort of like a martyr to make themselves look better. It's ridiculous.
Like even higher percentage, 18 to 30, haven't approached a woman in the last year.
In recent years, third spaces, meaning not your home, school, workplace, have just vanished. Think about the place that you grew up as an example. Pubs, bars, libraries, high street shops. How many are actually left today? And if any, how busy even are they? Since COVID, we just shuttle ourselves from home to work, to the gym, to the supermarket and home. You don't really just go to the village market. There is no real town, square or hall. You're not really bumping into anyone. Even a bit of small talk with someone at the bus stop just feels weird and awkward. Making eye contact with someone on public transport will get you a look that leaves you wondering if you're insane.
So much of what makes somebody good at dating is different now than it was 50 years ago.
You can see it in the way coffee shops have changed. Almost.
Am I the only one who just, you know, despises the phrase good at dating? You know, like everyone's viewing dating like it's some sort of a marathon. I think it's really sad. You know, you've got all these older women guys who are like, yeah, I'm so experienced in dating, or now I've experienced things, now I want to settle down. Like, what do you mean? This isn't some marathon where you go date 40 different men and then I'm supposed to wife you up after the fact. Like, how much of an insult is that, by the way? Like, yeah, I want to wife up some woman who's got a lot of experience. That's what I'm really looking for. And obviously, guys, I'm not getting married because I'm not that stupid. No offense to the guys who are married. I hope you don't get robbed of all your possessions. But you see what I'm saying here, okay? Like, this idea that a woman is going to be good at dating, you know, like, I just need some highly charismatic, extroverted woman, and that's the woman that men are looking for. I mean, come on now.
Almost every cafe is bland, empty, just minimalist. Almost as if they're designed purely as a conveyor belt of coffees and customers, getting us in and out as quickly as possible to extract the most amount of money they can. But can you remember the time when a stereotypical cafe was like this? With big sofas, comfy chairs, bringing people together to talk, and people just walking up to someone to say something without it being creepy. The show Friends was based on just reality in the 90s, and it's all part of a much wider pattern, one that's seemingly threatening humanity.
That this is actually a potentially existential crisis. Humans really do meet the qualification of an endangered species.
Because meeting people and building relationships is really the most important thing for human survival. It's often the key indicator in determining your lifespan. It's how we have replacement rates in just the population. But with this last decade and the disappearance of so many communal spaces where our parents and grandparents had opportunities to randomly meet new people, mixed with dating apps, has meant we're seeing a gap try to be filled that wasn't a natural one. This
is the other funny thing, is you'll have like older people who don't really understand how dating works nowadays, or, you know, how people behave. And they think that dating is just straightforward and simple, and that you as a man, if you're watching this channel, you're probably a guy. You know, their solution is, well, why don't you just go to a coffee shop and meet a nice woman and get married? And you have to explain to them that that's really outdated, and that simply doesn't really happen anymore. You know, like, again, you have to not look like a crazy a-hole who just really dislikes women to explain the actual situation of what's happening, because you might be a guy watching this, and you might want a family, you might want a wife, you might like women, but unfortunately a lot of the women these days are simply not approachable. And that's a situation that a lot of men find themselves in. They're like, well, I want to get married or have a family or this sort of thing, but, you know, the family courts are hostile to men, women are hostile towards men, and even if you want these things, it's just going to be incredibly difficult for you. And a lot of the older generation doesn't seem to understand that. They think that it's just the same as when they were growing up, and you should go out there and you should just hit it off with some woman at the, you know, at the newsagents or whatever location they met their significant other in. But it's simply not the same for the newer generations.
This is a void created by the same economic forces that hollowed out our third space as chains and corporate landlords. The same forces that funded these apps promising to replace what was destroyed. And dating apps didn't discover a gap in the market, one was just torn open and then monetized. But it was a lie. That too was all about getting your money. Think about it, the whole idea of a dating app as a viable business is a paradox. If they actually help people into relationships, they would clearly lose business. One good match is two lost customers, so instead, they designed the apps to fail, and in doing so, keep us hooked on using them. And in turn, what better way to keep an active user base than by having relationships designed to be short-term? This is your capacity to fall in love, to build a family, to find meaning. All your data, all your most vulnerable desires is just slowly converted into swipes and push notifications so someone else can hit their quarterly growth targets. Your relationship is designed to not be long-term.
I actually think that it's kind of worse than this. So yes, all of these companies, they want to make money, they want to prolong your usage of them so that they can make more revenue from you. But here's the other thing that I don't think people are considering, particularly, you know, people who make this point here, is that these dating apps could work, okay? But women on dating apps are just, women are very bad at dating. Right? Speaking of being good and bad at dating, most women are terrible with dating, right? Like they have, let's make this perfectly clear, okay? When women use these dating applications, they have essentially unlimited options, okay? So the dating apps themselves, they could work. They could meet the men, they could have a relationship, they could go out there and have kids and get married and stuff like this. But the women simply don't do that for the most part. What they do is they choose to go and have fun with these men who clearly don't want anything serious, if we're being logical, and then they just continue to jump back on the apps, you know? Like, so the tool is actually being given to women, but they just refuse to use it correctly. Now, the reason why I don't hold men to that same standard, which is something we'll get into later in the video, is simply because men do not have power on dating applications. And if they do, it's very minimal, and it's for a very small percentage of men. Most men are completely invisible, in not only in real life, but also on dating applications as well. And I would argue it's probably significantly worse on dating applications. But the point I'm trying to make here is, yes, these companies are trying to farm everybody for money, trying to, you know, maximize their profits. But let's not kid ourselves here, okay? If women wanted to have long-term relationships using these applications, they could find 1,000 men tomorrow, no problem, okay? If you're in a metropolitan city, the women have all the options. They just want a very small percentage of them. That's really what it boils down to.
It's why men make up 75% of Tinder users and women just 25%. Interestingly enough, the co-founder of the dating site OkCupid wrote a book revealing what actually happens behind the scenes of dating apps. Women, as you'd expect, receive an average of 4 to 5 messages a week, which even that seems unlikely to be this low. 90% of men received an average of 0 messages. Only at the extreme end of the attractiveness scale do the best looking men receive around 1 to 2 messages.
And you see, this is what I mean. Okay, this is where the difference comes in. You know, women have so much leverage when it comes to dating, and they throw it all away to hook up with men who don't want them. And, you know, you'll have those women who will say things like, well, I'm looking for something serious, but all of the men keep playing me. It's like, yes, obviously, the men that you are selecting are going to play you. Or, you know, women's friends will oftentimes tell them this, but they do it anyway. Like they know they're chasing men with these quote unquote red flags. And usually red flags in men, by the way, what this typically means is that the man obviously is not going to give up commitment. That's typically what red flags are in men. It's just an attractive guy who is unlikely to actually have a relationship with the woman. But make no mistake, guys, these women know that the dudes are not going to commit. They know the dudes are just saying nonsense to have their fun, you know, if the guy is inclined to lie. And they go out there and they do it anyway. And then, like, you know, they expect the rest of men to like have sympathy for them, you know, like, oh, we're supposed to be like, oh, I can't believe all of these men have just completely lied to you and tricked you. At a certain point, you're doing this on purpose, you know, like the options are there. Okay. Yes, there are dwindling amounts of men who are willing to put up with the nonsense of modern women, but, you know, the simps, they still come through. Okay. So women could have their relationships, they could have their stuff, but, you know, they choose not to. So I don't understand why men in general, we're kind of, you know, modern day media will convince us to be sorry for these women. I simply don't understand it.
But there's also a lot of men who are relying on dating apps who are never going to get the matches that they desire, either because they are short or because they are bald.
So
check this out, by the way, guys. Look at this. I don't know if you saw that, the headline there. I don't know how recently this was introduced, but I think it was fairly recently. I don't know. Height filters are taking off on dating apps. Are they getting in the way of finding true love? So if you didn't catch that, dating apps have actually added in a height filter. Okay, you know, I doubt they put in a weight filter for women. They probably haven't, realistically. But how crazy is this? Okay, so now if you're a dude who's like 5'9", I mean, women are just going to be, let's be honest, the women are just going to be sorting by dudes who are at least 6 foot. I mean, what are we even doing here? Ridiculous. And by the way, many of the women who want dudes who are like 6 foot, number one, don't even know what 6 foot looks like. And number two, half the time they're 5'4" anyway. It's insane.
They are short or because they are bald.
So, as many of us already know, if you're not in the top 10%, there's really no point in using them. It's something that's called mate suppression in practice, and we'll get onto that more soon.
And the reality is, for 95% of guys, online and dating apps aren't going to be a fruitful place for them to meet women.
But what we're seeing right now is that Generation Z's entire prospect of finding love is based on the ELO rating system, a numerical method developed to rank players in games like chess. A player score determines how strong or weak they are in relation to others. So your ability to find love is seemingly literally being run through the same maths we use to decide who's good at chess or League of Legends. It's why whenever you join these apps you get tons of matches, then suddenly they just fade away. You'll be told this is a personal failure, but oftentimes it's not. It's just the platform sorting you to the bottom unless you pay a ton of money. And this created a dangerous dynamic that has now permeated the world of dating, one where women select the same group of the most attractive men who have almost exclusive access to women, who then become...
I mean, make no mistake, women would do this with or without this inbuilt feature, by the way. It doesn't matter how they organize the groups of men on these applications. Women would still, for the most part, choose the very small percentage of men that have the characteristics that they're looking for.
Less interested in lots of these girls because they are then seen as too easy. The effect of this is that dating is seen...
Wait. Hang on a minute. So did we just suggest that men wouldn't be interested because the women are... Let's have a look. My goodness.
They are then seen as too...
Oh yeah, active, Bedroom fun, crazed young women viewed as easy targets in new hookup culture. I see.
Easy. The effect of this is that dating is seemingly a low-trust marketplace, as the entire way to attract is seemingly detachment and not through connection. It's always a contest of who cares the least, who can take the longest to message back, who's more aloof, disinterested, and who holds the power in the struggle to not care about the other. In other words, it's a game where almost everyone is bound to lose. You can now see it on reality TV with game shows where heartbreak is entertainment. But what's the message we're supposed to get from this? Romance isn't sacred, it's just a contest.
I assume it's women who watch this garbage, but like anytime I see dating shows and stuff like that, I just cannot really watch it at all. It's just completely insufferable to me. It's absolutely horrible.
Which all leads to the loneliness epidemic, and this one's hitting the youngest the hardest. But it's not just dating. Our whole modern society is stacked against any of us meeting someone, getting married, or even having children, and the consequences of this will change the world as we know it. Because there's something else catching up with us, our bodies are starting to fail and lose the capacity to produce children at all. You know what they found recently? Microplastics in human testicles. Human testicles contain nearly 3 times as much plastic as dog testicles. We're literally marinating our reproductive organs in synthetic polymers. It's one of the many explanations as to why male sperm counts have dropped by more than 40% since 1970. Average sperm count could even hit near zero at the current trajectory. Even if a situation that extreme doesn't transpire, there are plenty of other things to worry about, like the forever chemicals in non-stick pans and waterproof jackets, BPA in your water bottles, all the nasty chemicals in your shampoo. I mean, just the list goes on. Even simple stuff like drinking hot coffee out of plastic takeaway cups. We just live in a world now saturated with endocrine disruptors. And surprise, surprise, our endocrine systems are getting disrupted by all of this garbage we're pumping into our bodies daily. But even if you've somehow avoided the chemical assault, even if your fertility is fine, there's another huge problem vying against us. How many of your friends between the ages of 18 and 30 have kids? 1, 2, none until this year or last? Is anyone planning to have kids? How about those who said they don't even want kids? We just push everything later and later back. Education, work, financial stability, and for the middle classes especially, that pushes back having a family.
You know, this is something else we have to be kind of honest about here, okay? It is the women who want to push their biological clock backwards, even though it doesn't actually work that way. Like, all of this nonsense about having kids when you're 35, it's all women who want to do that, by the way. Like, is that... No, it's not Pokimane. But, you know, I saw a video the other day of Pokimane, like, it was an It's a Gundam video, and Pokimane was, like, proposing to herself or something because she's 30 years old now. And this is the nonsense that I'm talking about, guys. Is like, women, they bought into this idea that they just have all the time in the world. And so they think, well, I'm just going to have my fun from the time I'm 20 until the time I'm 30. And then when I'm like 35, or, you know, when I'm 35, that's when I'm going to aim to have kids. But as I push 30, that's when I'm going to have my first, like, serious relationship. And it's completely nonsensical. Number one, because the women, you know, by the time you're 35, you run some serious risks when you're trying to have children. But then there's also the fact, like, men don't typically want to deal with you by then. And the reason for that is because no dude with any self-respect wants to date a woman who's 30, who's hooked up with like 50 different men, and then we are responsible for wifing that up. It makes absolutely no sense. And that's what's expected of modern day women, guys, right? They expect dudes to just sweep in and save them, some like rich dude who they will not respect, by the way, to just come in and save them from the decisions that they made when they're 35 because they chose to push it off so long. It's completely ridiculous. It's a complete scam for dudes. But like, let's be clear about this, okay? It's women who are the ones who are pushing this crap very, very far backwards. They spend their 20s like drinking and partying and hooking up with dudes who are clearly not interested. Then they'll get to 30, they'll look for a stable guy who they won't respect, who they can't pair bond with. And then, you know, if you're that stable guy, you're going to be expected to marry her. Maybe you'll get a kid. You should probably DNA test it if I were you. If you've been, you know, a victim of this particular trap, I would suggest DNA testing the kid as well. But, you know, this is an insanely one-sided trade for men, and nobody wants to say it. It's the women who specifically want to do it this way. It is literally them who decides, you know what, now I'm 35 or 30 or whatever, now I'm going to get with that guy who's always been interested in me. Really, really insulting towards men, in my opinion.
Everything later and later back. Education, work, financial stability, and for the middle classes especially, that pushes back having a family. Because you only have a family when it's really sensible to you, right? That's just the middle class value. Rich people don't worry, and poorer people don't worry. But nothing changes our biological clock when it comes to fertility. Women over 35 are considered advanced maternal age, and honestly 35 is starting to look young to have kids for millions of people around the world. However, at 35, miscarriage rates nearly double. The chance of chromosomal abnormalities skyrockets. Down syndrome risk goes from something like 1 in 1,250 at 25 to 1 in 100 at 40. And it's not just mothers, older fathers contribute too. Men over 45 show increased risk for autism, schizophrenia, even stillbirth in their partners. Having kids into the 40s, 50s, and way higher for men at least is now becoming super common. Every year you wait, you're rolling dice with higher and higher stakes. But what else do you do? Shrug your shoulders and say it's too late and just plummet towards old age without the family you ever wanted and live an unsatisfying life. Well,
Here's also the thing about why I hold men and women to different standards when it comes to dating, and this is something people don't talk about either, which is that oftentimes men don't actually become attractive to women until they're older. There is a very, very large subset of men who fall under that particular category. Unless you're some, genetically gifted, highly attractive man, you've got like a nice face or something like this, or you're quite tall and all that. Typically, you're going to be overlooked as a man. And a lot of guys simply are invisible their entire lives, if not until they're older. Maybe you've got some more status, maybe you've got some more resources, whatever the case may be. But if I'm going to be honest about this whole thing, man, many dudes aren't actually considered by women, Western women in particular, as a viable option until we're older. And this is what I mean. Those women who are like pushing 35 years of age and stuff like this, when they're looking for that reliable guy, what happens is they now reach back out to those older men who were perhaps interested in them when they were younger, and they will hope those men take them back. If you guys see what I'm saying. So like these older guys, they're essentially getting treated as a get out of jail free card because maybe he's worked his entire life, he's done exactly what he was told to do, and now you'll have some woman try and kind of manipulate him back into a relationship and things like that. This is very common for men, by the way. If you're a dude and you're like 40 years of age, chances, and you're a hard worker or something like this, you've been working on your career, not really dealing with women, oftentimes you'll get these "Hey stranger" text messages from women who never wanted anything to do with you, but now because their life demands it, they'll start reaching out. And I don't think this is something people really talk about a whole lot, which is the older, the dudes who are older are typically not attractive until they're older and they have resources and stuff. And by that time, women will just try and use these guys. I think a lot of dudes, particularly wealthy men who are hard workers, even if you're divorced or something like that, typically you have a very large target on your back for these women who are looking for a retirement plan.
And just plummet towards old age without the family you ever wanted and live an unsatisfying life. Well, if you don't want that, when natural conception fails, you can only turn to IVF. This is often the modern solution, except a single cycle costs $12,000 to $15,000. Add medications, there's another $5,000, and most people need multiple cycles, so you're looking at around $30,000 to $50,000 minimum, often much, much more. And this leads down a dark path where we're forced to engineer more of the process of just having kids. Genetic testing in the womb. Testing for Down syndrome is one thing, but some companies will now screen for height and IQ. It's an ethical black hole on every front for men and women. Women are the child bearers, they shoulder a lot of the risk here, and male dating culture doesn't think about this enough because everyone is turning against each other.
You would think, by the way, that women would care more about this crap, about the complications that come with having a child towards an older age, but I swear they don't seem to care. Like all the women I've seen, man, they try and leave this stuff till as long as they possibly can realistically, or failing that, just short of how long they can actually realistically leave it. But the amount of disregard that women actually have for their own bodies and, what's going to happen to them in the rest of their life is astounding to me. I'll see women with, just bucket loads of student debt, okay, trying to have a family, like no boyfriend at 29 years of age or something like this. And then again, they're just hoping for some dude to come in and save them. it really is just quite ridiculous to me.
If you've seen our video on population collapse, you'll know that fertility rates are just collapsing. Countries like the USA and the UK are seeing the lowest childbirth numbers in their histories. It's not just a stat, it's millions of people who always imagined they'd have a partner and family one day, now quietly aging out to that possibility.
I love the TikTok car videos. And I want to stress this, by the way, guys. I have, I have so many TikTok videos saved. Like, I literally have a sheet with over 800 at this point, and I haven't even been, not really been diligent in collecting them, okay? But 800 plus videos of women just whining in like one Excel sheet alone. That's how many of these videos are. And don't let this fool you, okay? Because we've got one video from a woman and one video from a man. Like, this is the majority of the videos that you will see of people complaining about dating and being single. It's mostly women, by the way. Like, you might think, oh yeah, there's a man, there's a woman, it's both genders are kind of just here talking about their woes over on TikTok. It's actually mainly the women doing this, making their videos, crying in their cars, complaining about how, men aren't chivalrous anymore, that sort of thing. And I love this, by the way. I'm 40 and I'm single and I absolutely hate it. As if the women have no control about this, by the way. And this is why, again, this is a perfect time to illustrate this, why I hold men and women to different standards on this, is because, this guy might very well just be straight up invisible to women. There's a very good chance if you were to put this man on a dating application, no women would be interested. If you were to put him in social situations where you told him to approach women, that, they might be, we all know the dangers of that, okay? But the woman here, on the other hand, even though I can't particularly roast her too hard because I'll get banned, but if you were to put this woman on dating applications, she would have a lot of options, guys. That's the difference, okay? Like, that is truly the difference. This dude might be treated like crap by women his entire life, but these women have so many options. It isn't even funny. Like, this is not an equal thing at all. I always laugh when I see, like, oh, it's the men and the women. They're in the exact same boat. They've made the exact same decisions. No, they really haven't. It's very, very different situations.
Quietly aging out to that possibility. Family lines ending not because people don't want love, but because our environment makes acting on that desire impossible. Ask yourself, even if you did meet the right person, what would stop you from having children? Probably not enough money, no chance of being able to buy a house anytime soon. Cost of living is probably too high in your city with food, bills, and transport. The cost of childcare is more than your current salary. There are just no good schools in your area, or no school places in areas with good schools. Or even just finding a wife that you can trust won't divorce you and take half of your money. It's probably all of the above. It's not just an economic problem. Based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, all the stuff we need like love and marriage and family are just the basics. It's the same importance in life as having food, water, a roof over our heads. The funny thing is that the way this hierarchy was sold to us in the 20th century made it sound like family came after you'd finally self-actualized. You've nailed the career, the money, the personal growth, now for a family. In reality, for most people, that self-actualization replaced family altogether. There was always one more phase of working on myself first, so we ended up with a whole culture optimized for individual self-maximization, while family quietly got pushed off the edge of the pyramid. Today, most of us, let alone Generation Z, never even get past the bottom layers. Housing, money, community, security, it's all unstable. And when your foundation is shaking, you can't climb to the levels where belonging, intimacy, and family even become possible. The system keeps us stuck in survival mode, but gaslights us for not reaching love. Do you ever lie in bed scrolling through people's social media? The engagements, weddings, honeymoons, kids, it feels like you're watching real life from behind glass as time seems to disappear from under you. And it's not just about missing out on dates, it's that we're missing out on the opportunity to build something lasting, something to have outside of ourselves, something to connect us with beauty in the world. Somehow starting a family is considered a luxury for the rich, a luxury for a select few in society who don't have to worry about the housing market. They don't have to worry about the dating crisis. They own several homes. That money and security is attractive to other women. They don't need to worry about schools. They can send their kids to the best private schools anywhere in the world. And the thing is, this isn't an accident. Decades of decisions driven by corporate greed, short-term profits, and a culture that worships work over family has left us here. Those at the top are allowed to have family. They're able to have more kids. And even then, they're still not having that many. Like an idiocracy, where you'll get these upper-class people debating whether it's a good idea to even have one child. So how can you expect an undervalued, underpaid worker class to ever be able to have the time, money, or even possibility of raising a family.
I think all of this is a great case for why men are just ditching Western countries and going overseas. Because this video is absolutely correct, okay? The middle class, completely obliterated at this point. You know, governments are refusing to acknowledge that we're in, you know, things like recessions and whatever else. But people know that everything is messed up, okay? You can't buy a house. There's, you know, you try and have a kid in this economy. I mean, good luck to you if you're the average person. It's simply not going to be a feasible task for you to do. And this is why, dude, you know, this is why dudes will go to places like the Philippines or whatever to try and find a girlfriend or have a wife or a family and things like this, because it's simply a very, very difficult task in the West. And it has been made deliberately very damn difficult to do so. Okay, there is plenty of legislation that is passed through our governments in Western countries that is not going to help you have a family at all, or to have a solid footing in life at all if you don't want to have a family. And the thing about this legislation is anyone could tell you that it was not going to help, and yet they put it through anyway. Okay, so it is completely nonsensical. The middle class is actively being obliterated. And, you know, it's true, you've got a bunch of wealthy people who are considering having like one child and stuff like this. It's just ridiculous, completely ridiculous at this point.
Especially as more and more governments cut childcare, youth services, community centers, third spaces, police numbers, the list just goes on. But the effect down the line is just a less safe, less connected society that is not replacing itself. Huge populations in the entire Anglosphere are just disappearing over time. And this is where it gets interesting, because if you think about the West 150 years ago, it wasn't like we were even that much richer. So many people struggled, poverty was rife, the poor worked insane hours, but they still had families, often large ones. So what actually changed? Well, religious communities and spaces, shared culture, social traditions and rituals, these safety nets that help people to share life's burdens, were just erased. Modernity has completely stripped away all the essentials that make replacing your population just a natural part of human evolution. And I'd say the most infuriating part of this fertility collapse is when we're just supposed to pretend that people's decision to not have children is simply a personal choice, and not one imposed upon us by oppressive social structures. This isn't a problem in Africa or other developing parts of the world, and yet somehow the rich West can't even replace its population levels. And we can't just blame the rich and powerful here. Much of the progress we celebrate today is just part of the problem, because we created a massive middle class, and when you look at who's actually having kids, it's not a straight line from rich to poor, it's a U-shape. The wealthy have kids. Elon Musk has 12 children, Nick Cannon has 12, Robert De Niro just had his 7th at age 79. The working class or populations in poorer countries have tons of kids too. Africa's population is booming. Often when work prospects are lower and pay is worse, kids become a lifeline. Life priorities put family before career advancement because career advancement really isn't on the table anyway.
This is something that's also been rather crazy to me, is you will have a lot of people who are lower class, and then they will deliberately become things like single mothers so that they can get government benefits from hardworking taxpayers to subsidize their lives, which is just completely bonkers. So you'll have women who go out there who have no intention, for example, of actually building a proper family with a father in there or anything like that. But what they'll do is they'll go out there, they'll hook up with men, then they'll have kids, but they will have specifically had those kids so that they can reap government benefits from men who are also out there working. You know, and women too, who do the tax paying. Congratulations, by the way, to the women for joining the workforce. Very empowering. But, you know, they take this money from the taxpayers, and then the taxpayers are forced to pay for these people who are, let's be honest, a net negative to society, who are just there having children for the sake of actually, you know, for the monetary gain that the government gives them. And then these same places wonder why people leave, by the way. They wonder why everyone just goes to places like Dubai or whatever the case may be. They wonder why dudes are going to the Philippines and whatever. It's very, very simple as to why this is the case. Like, you literally reward the people who make the terrible decisions, and then you punish the people who are trying to make balanced, sensible decisions.
He's put family before career advancement because career advancement really isn't on the table anyway. There's nothing controversial about this. This was always what it used to be like before countries became industrialized and the middle class blew up. Families had loads of kids first because infant mortality was high, and second because it means more family income and higher overall chances of survival. The middle class though, they're getting absolutely crushed, and they're dying quite literally because of that. First, the middle class is associated with hard work and career aspirations. The self-actualization I talked about earlier. So immediately there's an additional cost, childcare, because most middle-class households have dual incomes. No one wants to give up the career society marketed to them all their life. The middle-class couple sits at the kitchen table with a spreadsheet. Mortgage, student loans, car payments, health insurance, retirement savings they're already behind on, and then childcare that costs more than their rent. So they wait and wait, they're being sensible, and by the time they feel ready, realize the biological clock never stopped. This is the low fertility trap that threatens everyone. The working poor have kids they can't quite afford. The rich have as many as they want, but the middle class, the people who followed all the rules their life, maximized their education, delayed gratification, well, they're getting totally screwed.
And here's the problem, and I think that's what a lot of people have issues with, is like, you can do everything you're told. You can do everything by the book that people told you to do, that society told you to do, that media told you to do, and it's just complete nonsense. You know, pulling this back, for example, to the dating game, right? If you go out there and you listen to what people tell you should be doing in the dating game, what's going to happen is, if you're a hardworking man, for example, you're just going to have everything taken from you in all likelihood. You know, you're going to go to university, then you're going to leave university with a whole bunch of debt. Then you're going to get a job with very little security. I mean, I could make this a whole speech about how terrible this whole life plan is, but at the end of it, you'll get some woman who will probably try and take your resources, or at the very least has the ability to do so, which is terrifying. I mean, the plan that society has laid out for people is simply not working anymore. But guys, we're going to be leaving it there. Make sure you click on one of the videos on screen now to watch more if you liked today's video. Don't forget to take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.